welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome you back here on the channel for another one of our wee comic relief shows that we're calling Room 10167. You've seen a few by now, you know the score. It is basically an unapologetic rip-off of a very popular comical show by the name of Room 101. But what we've done is, we've put a wee spin on it, a wee Celtic spin on it, and we invite our guests on not to talk about their general pet peeves, their general annoyances, their Celtic related annoyances. What are those wee things that they just can't get on board with, that turn their stomach, that make them want to throw up, that they wish would get launched into the bin and forgot about forevermore? And as you can see, it is an absolute topper of a guest that we've got on for this episode. Episode 3, believe it or not, we're 3 in already. And it is the man that you know as Paul. Some know him as Channel 67. Some know him as another one from Paul. It is, of course, well, it's Paul. How you doing, mate? It's great to have you.
Absolute pleasure to come on, Steve-O. To come on my episode of Channel 10167. Have you seen this? All the TikTok kids doing the 6-7 thing, Steve-O?
Yes. I
immediately alienated myself from most of the audience. I don't know about your analytics, but on my channel, you can see the age of the people who watch your videos.
Right. Yes,
0 to 18, 0%. Yep. I appeal to no Zoomers. So 6-7, we'll put loads of hashtags on this video.
It's funny. I don't actually, like, I look at it and I don't know. I mean, myself and Paddy, we're about 40 or so, and we're not maybe of a certain age, a certain vintage, but yeah, I look at the analytics and do you know what? It is quite interesting. I don't care what age people are, as long as they watch. That is the most important thing, as long as they get involved. It is, but like yourselves, there isn't many of the youth out there that are watching Celtic World Order podcast.
Literally none. So I took the dog for a walk in the park yesterday morning, and walking into the park on the ground, somebody had painted 6-7. I thought maybe Channel 67's finally hit it big, or maybe it's just Celtic fans. And then I realized it's neither. It's just Zoomers saying 6-7. Apparently it's a joke about basketball.
I will need to ask Paddy. He is our TikTok aficionado. Maybe he knows about that. You know, he's a man-child. He's a very young guy. He's inside an adult's body with no hair. And that's, on top, I'm not speaking for anything else. I don't know. I've never seen. I don't want to see. But anyway, we divert. This is what happens. And this is what happens on this show anyway. Yes, as we said, it is Room 10167. We're going to have Paul here. I believe he has 4 topics that he wants to put forward to me. Ultimately, the judge, jury, and executioner. I will rule the roost over his pet peeves of the Celtic persuasion, and he'll either get banishment granted or it'll be access denied. And I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Now, just before we crack on, it says below, this is a pre-recorded episode. So whatever time you're watching that, this, whether it's morning, afternoon, night, who knows, we can't instantly respond to what you're saying on the screen. However, leave your thoughts down below on what Paul says, what we say in general. We always try to get back to them. Tell us what you would have put into Room 10167, and maybe we might just agree with them, maybe we won't, but that's the glory of this show. But before we crack on, as we always say, if you haven't done it already, hit the subscribe, hit the like. We're close, we're that reaching for that 3,000 subscribers, and hopefully you can help us get there. And hopefully this man here, and he's class. I love it. I'm no blowing smoke. I love it. Having a guy on like him here, and I like that top as well, mate. It's an absolute topper. Having a guy on like this might just help us do it. And if you haven't done it already, get over to another one from Paul. Check out Channel 67. It's a great laugh. I call it the brass eye of Celtic podcasting. Nice edits. It's cut up. It's comical. It's a sketch show type thing. I love it, and it's definitely one of the things that the very Celtic seriousness of the fan media sphere needed is the comic relief, and you are hopefully going to be the man that gives us it. But before we crack on, as I say, people don't know you, mate, then they should. It's a crime if they don't know who you are. But why don't you tell us how it came about? I believe it was born out of the boredom of COVID. Does that sound about right? Have I got that one right?
Born out of the boredom of COVID is the perfect way to describe it. So we're all under lockdown 2020, whenever it was. And I was sat home and thought, what can I do with my time here? I'm on furlough, as it was at the time. And I decided, I don't know many things, not a very smart man, but I do know Celtic. So I decided to make a few videos about Celtic. So born into a Celtic supporting family, I have a Celtic mad dad. He's the sort of dad that like tweets at people 24/7 under an anonymous account all day, every day. So born into the family. I decided to make a video about the three amigos, and the reason I did that was the first Celtic match I went to was September 1996 at home to Hibs. The only memory I have of the game is that Hibs were wearing their purple away jersey. So very Barney the Dinosaur for a 3-year-old at the time. I remember that. But in later years, I would learn that I got to see the three amigos in person. We won 5-1. Before the game, my dad asked me, what's the score going to be, Paul? And I was like, 5-1. Like, what's a 3-year-old? No, and he ignored me. He should have put a bet on it. He would have won money. True story. So went to that game, decided to make a video about that, and also decided to make a video about our first Champions League group, because that's when my memory kicks in. It's like Henrik Larsson, Martin O'Neill, early 2000s. That's my first memories of being a Celtic fan. So I made those two videos, and they got, between them, they got like 55 or 60, not 1,000 views, but 55 or 60 views between them. I didn't advertise them anywhere. Nobody knew these videos existed. I was bored. I was at home. It just kept me occupied for a few hours. About a year or two later, I started getting all these emails saying there's been a comment left in your video. I couldn't even remember doing it. And it was all these comments of people talking about the two videos. And I thought, I've always wanted to do a YouTube type thing. I've always wanted to do that. So I thought maybe I should do something. And this is a true story. I was hung over the morning after. Remember during the COVID season, we lost 2-0 at home to Rangers. Neil Lennon was manager. We lost 2-0 at home, and we didn't have a shot on target.
Yep, absolutely. Mate, there's a lot of bad memories. I mean, COVID was a rough time to be watching Celtic.
Like I said, I'm just gonna go on YouTube and I'm gonna talk my thoughts. And I talked my thoughts. And I got like 1,000 views, and most of the comments were just people going, "Get a wash, Bobby Sands." It was all Rangers fans just looking at the guy with the Belfast tag. Get a wash, Bobby Sands. I loved all those comments.
Just instantly going to that lowest common denominator slaggings that they seem to do. I don't get it. It's I know.
Well, frankly, Steve-O, I loved it. So I got all those comments and decided I should do this. I should do it seriously. I should make some videos. So as you'll see on the channel, I do some videos that are biographies about Celtic players. But then a few months ago, there is this American live streamer. Okay, he's called Red Bar. The truth is, I wanted to keep this secret, but it feels like stealing. So my entire channel with the TV set up here, with me pointing at my beautiful wife who sits off camera as I'm doing these videos. It's just a copy of this American live streamer called Red Bar. He's great. I wanted to keep it, pretend that I'm original, but it's a complete ripoff, except instead of talking about comedians as he does, I talk about the Celtic universe, because I know nothing about tactics, Steve-O. I know nothing about football. I played football in secondary school. Recently, I played a charity game, and that was the first time I'd kicked a ball in about 4 years. I am awful when it comes to tactics, when it comes to football. But I thought, I'm terminally online. I can keep all the Celtic YouTubers in check. I watch everybody all the time. I love Celtic YouTube. I wake up in the morning and listen to Celtic YouTube.
There's plenty to choose for, put it that way.
There's so much. I thought that could be my very specific niche. So that's why I got started with the channel, and the feedback, I couldn't believe how positive the feedback was. Appreciate it all. And no more positive than the great Celtic World Order. And I'm delighted to be on your show. The kindest man in Celtic YouTube is Steve-O. He's much kinder than Alan Morrison. He's much kinder than Duke O'James. He's much kinder than John Paul Dykes. He's kinder than all of them.
Listen, that he was not told to say this. He was coming on. I said I'd send him a t-shirt. So there we go. No, I'm glad you enjoy it. As I say, there's plenty of great content out there. And as I say, I genuinely enjoy the Channel 67 stuff. I enjoy that sort of, as I say, the comical edge to it all. It is good. But, come back to yourself and being a Celtic sports, it's quite fun, that, as you say, and when you're 3, you get taken to a game. That very much buys into that, where you are a Celtic supporter one way or another. It's something that you are born into. Maybe you'd say you don't get a choice in it. That may well be. Of course, we know that people may well, when they get older, no football's not for them and they move on. But getting taken to a game at 3, that's absolutely top quality. I've got to say, that's phenomenal stuff. But then again, that gives me a wee sort of steer. You make me feel old when you talk about your age there. So obviously you're saying that the quality was around the sort of Martin O'Neill era, where you're sort of thick and fast memories coming in. As I do when I get people on the show, I want to speak a wee bit about, obviously, firstly, what they do, if it's a platform or whatever, but also a wee bit about their Celtic support and fandom. And I would probably say is it fair for me to say that you are perhaps one of these pesky, spoiled young fans that we hear of? Because you came in at a right good time. We were always competitive. Yes, there was a bit of sort of leagues won, leagues lost, but you've seen a hell of a lot of success, haven't you? So if I was to push you and say, what has been the best period of supporting Celtic for you? If you could, you're spoiled with all these victories and all these trophies and all this success. What's been the sweetest point for you? Because it certainly hasn't been the COVID, mate.
You know, when you're a child and you have those glorious memories, and sometimes you feel a bit of nostalgia, and you look back in those memories and you think, oh, maybe it was nostalgia taking over. Maybe things weren't that good. My thing is, when I was a kid, it was that good. It was Henrik Larsson, Petrov, something. My earliest memories is that 2000 team. So here's a true story. My dad used to invite a load of people over for every single match. We'd watch it on TV in Belfast. We'd watch every single match. So the 6-2 game, I was interested in football by that point because for Christmas that year, we had got FIFA 2000. So football isn't just this abstract concept anymore. Like, I probably know the players' names. I know the teams. When we beat Rangers 6-2, I remember everybody going insane in our house, but I didn't really get why. Like, I was so happy we were beating Dick Advocaat's Rangers, but I didn't really get why, because I'm like, well, I just beat them 14-0 in FIFA, so surely that was even better than 6-2. And it was only after that everybody went so insane that I realized, oh, this is big. And I didn't appreciate how big it was, because for the decade prior, we'd been chasing them. And then that was the day, in my opinion, the tide ultimately turned. I remember that day. One more quick story about that day was in the post-match. My dad used to be, as I told you, my dad's a crazy Celtic fanatic. He recorded on videotape, VHS, every game back then. And I accidentally sat on the remote during Martin O'Neill's post-match interview, and our TV just went blue screen. Like, you know, when record comes up in the top corner? And I was like 6 or whatever, and everybody was like, oh, everybody wanted to strangle me because I was so young they couldn't actually get too angry. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
That's class. You know, and it's funny, you said that, and you spoke about the Martin O'Neill thing and us chasing them. And I always remember whenever Martin O'Neill was first unveiled, I don't know if that's necessarily something that'll be clear in your memory, but you've seen the rollback off it when he says he will do everything he possibly can to bring some sort of success to the club. And he also said as well that Rangers were the benchmark. Now, whether he fully believed that or whether he was trying to put a wee bit of siege mentality in there, it's neither here nor there. But by God, bring some success, definitely. And I have to agree, there was a real sort of watershed moment. Obviously, stopping the 10 was huge, but from that Martin O'Neill period, that's where the successes started to really come back, and we got a sort of second phase of just the glory. Obviously, we now know what happened to the now defunct Rangers, rest in peace and all that kind of stuff. But yes, you pointed at the COVID, and it's funny, isn't it? Because you came in at a great time, celebrating as being a Celtic fan and getting your earliest memories, but then the time when you get into doing this kind of stuff was miserable. So you must be kind of enjoying it now. And of course, before we crack on to the business, we are recording after a quite frankly shocking result against Dundee. Now, it's quite interesting, and I want to know your sort of thoughts on this. Where are you at with this current situation? Because we now find ourselves 5 points behind Hearts. Of course, we then play them. Depending on how that one goes, it could open up. We obviously see there's absolute turmoil in Rangers. They're well down. They're miles off it in terms of... But do you genuinely think that there could be something of a sustained and genuine title challenge from Hearts around this season?
Steve-O, I absolutely do, and I'll tell you why. It's because I'm an avid football manager player. So many times over the years, I've taken over either Hibs or Dundee United. I wouldn't do Hearts because they're too close to Rangers, but I've taken over Hibs and Dundee United and won titles in football manager so many times. I can see the writing on the wall here, and I understand why maybe the older generation, people like my dad, would think Hearts will be written off, because Aberdeen last year, that's what happened. They started well, but there was no reason they started well. It just sort of happened. And just to give a bit of background about my dad as well. So back in the day, he once wrote a 24-page back and front letter to Terry Cassidy, the CEO of Celtic, prior to the takeover. Right. And he, on Twitter, he's terminally online like myself. He sent both pages of that letter to the great John Paul Dix, as I call him. And so I hope Paul John Dix knows the family connection now. So my dad was part of the takeover of the old board, and I put another one from Paul's name to the signed letter for the new board. But just I genuinely do take Heart serious because I've won so many titles in Football Manager with non-Celtic teams that I could see it happening, and I could get the point of view where it's almost good if it happens. And there's a part of you that's like, well, it'd be the best thing that could happen. It will wake us up. But I will say I'm a tiny bit terrified of Tony Bloom.
Well, do you know, and just to touch on that before we move on, it's true because we came on here, myself and Paddy, and we spoke about it. And I always remember, do you ever remember the interview done with Tony Bloom? They looked at me creepy Pinocchio. I was like, down here, like, yeah, we're going to win the title. And you're like, this guy's off.
He's a nerd. He's a nerd.
This guy's talking wild stuff. He's out there. Like, what's he talking about? But do you know what? Through gritted teeth, I kind of maybe becoming a wee bit of a believer and going, right, okay, because I said after it today, now we need to focus on ourselves, right? And I think there will be questions. Of course, the biggest problem's upstairs. We all know that. We need to change and shake up that board. But there also needs to become a level of responsibility, of course, on the players and, of course, the manager. And that should rightly get some light put on it. But in terms of Hearts, I think Hearts are more dangerous than Aberdeen because they are a perfect combination. They're a perfect storm of unity between the players, the club, and the fans. They've also got stability, but they've also got the right mix of ambition. And they seem to be ticking a lot of boxes. And I genuinely think that if we find ourselves getting to January and Hearts are still ahead, who knows, they might not be, but let's just say they were ahead and they had some sort of level of buffer between it. We already know they've got some players pre-approved to come in January. I think they might just smell blood now. People have written it off, but funnier things have happened. We look at that season with Leicester, so it would be probably ignorant, wouldn't it?
I couldn't agree more. I don't really like the fans here writing them off. Like, I couldn't respect people like Asim Hugh more. Asim today was saying he thinks Hearts will fall off, and my insane Celtic supporting dad thinks the same. But I think they're a bit more. There's something more. I don't want to say sinister about Hearts. There's something about Hearts this year. I can't write them off. I feel like there's a strong chance. Even you were saying there, Steve-O, they already have their January signings pre-approved. As if Celtic have even thought. Michael Nicholson has turned his phone off until the 31st of December, as far as I'm concerned.
What a concept, eh? Getting players in early. But anyway, let's move on. Let's get into the bit that you came to see. 15 minutes in. Let's get down to business, as we say here on the show. So this is your chance for room 10167, all-time glory. Now, before we kick off, and for those that are watching, if you're not seeing the other episodes and catching up, here's a brief summary of what we have. So we've had various topics that have been submitted to us by the Bold Terry Rob and, of course, Liam Greenlaw. And so far, the board have been put in room 10167. They didn't even need to get brought up. That was just, they were preempt. They were in, straight in. Don't even need to explain that one. We had 12 p.m. kickoffs, which also covered a mixture of moved around alternative kickoffs, whether it's in Europe, whether it's domestically or otherwise. Lennoxtown Unfiltered and the new player interviews, courtesy of the excellent on YouTube platform that is Celtic, and of course personalised shirts. Now, what did that mean? Well, a wee bit sort of like this, but it was more that kind of one where it was like Dad won and that kind of stuff, cheesy stuff. They're all banished. They have never to come back and be seen again. However, not everything gets in. Ticket fees, booking fees on those, denied. Hospitality, well, nobody's holding a gun to your head. It's up to you if you want to pay that. And of course, Christmas adverts. There's no way I was putting Santa Claus and cheeriness at the festive time into room 101. Sorry, Liam. So, Paul, you have a few things here. You've went to the hassle, maybe, if you want to call it that, but I say the generosity of providing me with some wee prompts for your ones, and we'll jump off. The first one you went for is this: annoying fans on the supporters buses. Now, of course, we'll all have been on a supporters bus. We'll all have had that one person, I hope I don't get stuck next to them. Talk to me, mate. Give me your reasons. What is it about these annoying fans? Is there a story in there that's brought this on?
I'll admit, by prefacing this with the word annoying, I'm attempting to gerrymander the vote almost. But I'm going to give you two stories, Steve-O, and if neither of these can convince you, then fair enough, they don't belong in room 101. Here's story number one with, I'm a one-trick pony, it's my screen behind me here. Red bar inspired. So number one, annoying fans on supporters buses. Here's the first example. It's not Jeffrey Dahmer. He wasn't on any supporters bus, just to make that clear. So last year, fair enough, the last match I actually managed to go to was when we beat Leipzig 3-1 in the Champions League last November. It was the high point of Brendan Rodgers' current Celtic.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to that game. It was amazing. When you come over from Belfast, you have to get the bus to the boat from Carnryan to Glasgow, and then back. So your cabin fever does become a thing. You're stuck around these same 100 people all day for essentially 24 hours. So everybody's happy. We have won an important Champions League game. Spirits are high. We're getting back on the bus to head towards the boat. We get into the bus, and right away, this fella, everybody's happy and jovial. We've just won 3-1 in the Champions League. He goes, "Who stole my scarf?" What? He goes, he wanted to search everybody's bag for, and I quote, "a Celtic scarf." Mate, you were just at a Celtic game. He wanted everybody to open their backpack so he could see if somebody stole his Celtic scarf.
So what, are we talking about the green and white bar scarf? Are we talking something bespoke? Was it a player one? Was it one of these fancy ones? What went on here?
He didn't clarify, which was bizarre. Now, he'd had a few eels, to be fair. He wasn't right for it. Anyway, so we got him calmed down. He was with a lady. She got him calmed down, sat down. So he happened to sit down on the 2 seats across from me and my brother. My brother is a bespectacled gentleman with fair hair. He's a very quiet type fella, a very nice fella. You couldn't ask for nicer, and he's not a drinker. So we sat down, and we were sat across from the fellow that was demanding everyone opens their bags. Everybody was in great form until this fella got on the bus, because we just won. Everybody was in great form until he got on the bus and started demanding to see people's bags. So everybody's face dropped a bit, and he started screaming at people. And he turned to my brother and goes, "Oh, fucking smile, Jeffrey Dahmer." Because my brother had the glasses and the fur. He fucking smile, Jeffrey Dahmer. This guy was threatening to search her bags a minute earlier. So that's the first type of person I'm talking about, Steve-O. But I also have a second example to share with you here. The second example, there's another one from Paul. There I am in my long-haired glory. That was Brendan Rodgers' first derby game against Rangers when we won 5-1, September 2016. I went to that game with a couple of mates. And on the bus, we were in 4 seats. They got the seat on the 2 ones in front, and I was set behind them. So there was a spare seat beside me, and on the bus waddled this, what looked like 65-year-old man. He was drinking gin out of a bottle of fruit shoot. So right away, he wasn't stable, and he just happened to find the seat beside me. And he sits down, he plumps himself down, and he's looking at me. And remember, this is what I look at the time. He's looking at me, he's looking at my mates. He goes to my mate, what's your job? And my mate at the time was a software engineer. My mate goes, software engineer? He goes, huh? And he goes, janitor. He's like, all right. And he looks at me, and he looks at my hair, Steve-O, and he goes, what do you have that hair for? Why do you have that long hair? I was like, I don't know what to say to this guy. I was like, I just do. And he's like, do you like the Eagles or something? And I was like, what am I supposed to? He goes, do you like Eagles or something? And I was like, I just panicked. I was like, yeah, I think Eagles are good. He goes, I like Eagles too. And he turns around and he goes to the person across the road. He goes, he owes me fucking money. And he starts pointing out everybody on the bus that owes him money. Steve-O, that's the type of insane person I'm talking about from the supporters buses. I want to know your thoughts.
So mate, this sounds like a combination of long journeys, because obviously the commute, if you want to call it as a commute, it's an actual travel from yourself coming over the ferry, over on the bus. It's a long day. I get it. But it also sounds like a combination of, you could say, annoying fans on buses, but also terrible drunks. That's what it sounds like as well, because you're telling descriptions of stories of guys that are clearly had one too many or are just a bit obtuse, and of course a wee bit of alcohol just amps up those annoyances and those tendencies. And yes, we've all been stuck beside people, and I can sort of relate to this one. I think that it's like when you are on a train, for example, and you're sitting there on your own. You've maybe took the wee two-seater and you're just sitting, keeping your own business, and somebody walks on and they have to sit next to you. You're like, just go away and leave me alone. And then they sit down and they want to talk to you and they don't want to give you peace. So I can fully understand that. But when you put that in the mix, you go into a game, it's a long day out, there's a lot of drink, that I can only imagine it is going to get worse. Just for a wee bit of sort of information on these. So when you come over here, and it's a supporter bus coming over, is it the same kind of characters that are getting on? Is it the same people? Obviously, I know you might not be able to get a ticket. Are these people that are known to you as you see them regularly on the bus? Is this a recurring theme, or is this just the potlucky what you get on the day?
It's a bit of both, Steve. So it is recurring theme. I'm sure I'm not a regular, unfortunately, for financial reasons. I can't go over all the time. But these supporters buses do have a bit of a click in terms of people who know each other. The one I talk about, the United Eagles, mate, he is notorious for pointing around people with his grievances. You owe me money. You called me a dick. You wouldn't buy me a drink. He's notorious for that. So that is the specific. I'm not talking about anybody on a supporters bus. We all love the supporters buses. What would we be without them? But that specific sort of finger pointing, you owe me, you do what I say, this is my seat type person.
Well, do you know what? I'm maybe getting a wee bit sort of soft here, but I can understand. And for my own annoyances, I am going to say that I will banish these people because, and the reason I'm saying that is simply because it's bad enough having to make the long journey. You're leaving early and you want it to be as enjoyable as you possibly can. But ultimately, there will always be one or two people who just can't hold it together. And that is just absolutely tragic. So is it annoying fans or supporters buses? No, but it's that circumstance of you are stuck behind or next to an absolute tool who is just bringing down the mood. So I think absolutely these kind of people must be banished. So yes, congratulations on that one. Well done, my friend. The first
delighted because I genuinely thought of 4 here, by the way. I genuinely thought I was going 0 for 4. So there's a relief. I've scored a goal early on.
I'm quite intrigued with some of the ones that you've got, and this one I will say this is one you're going to have to compel me here with this. Fans who get Luke McCown's name wrong. Now, just to jump in, are you suggesting when people maybe say Luke McGowan, is it as simple as that? Surely not.
Quite frankly, Steve-O, it is as simple as that. I want to ask you one question and one question only. What is this man's name?
Luke McCowan. Or chocolate bar if you're down with the kids.
You're right. His name is Luke McCown, or chocolate bar if you're a 6'7" type person. This man's name, as he's printed on a shirt, is Luke McCown. It is not McGowan like Gowser that used to play for Celtic back in the day.
Hey, that's a good picture. Loads of hair there as well.
Oh, he looks fantastic. That's before he assaulted 17 different bodyguards in nightclubs across Glasgow. Looking very well there. It is not McGowan. It is not Luke Cowan. It is not Luke Gowan. It's Luke McCown. I have to double check to make sure I wasn't going to get it wrong there, to be fair, so maybe I should be in room 101. But the amount of times I have seen it on the message boards, I don't know if you're a message board guy, but also on XOM. I meant to take a screenshot of the particular XOM episode that brought it into mind. Right. But there was an XOM episode where John Paul and JP, great guy, ended up talking about Luke. And it was because somebody had said Luke McGowan has been off form. And I thought, he's been here for 15 months now. His name is not Luke McGowan. He's not Paul McGowan's cousin. He's not a second cousin. His name is Luke McCown. And one more thing about Luke McCown I wanted to point out was, have you heard the story that a month before a few weeks before he signed, Rod Stewart on Talk Sport said, I've heard Celtic are interested in the boy from Dundee, Luke McCown. I thought, what? Or sorry, I messed up. Luke McGowan. And I was like, so not only did he get his name wrong, I think somebody in the board tipped off Rod Stewart before he went on TalkSport to let him know we were about to sign Luke
McGowan.
I've embarrassed myself there by getting it wrong. So I'll put this. It's not going in room 101 because I've made the mistake already.
Do you know what? I'll be honest. When I saw you submitting this one, I thought, that's quite thin. I mean, I know it's annoying, but although what I will say is for the balance, there's certain things that really annoy me. It's like, see when people don't say bought and they say brought, that annoys me. You ever hear people say that? Aye, yeah, I went out and I brought that. No, you didn't. You bought it. So I can understand. I'm not exactly a wordsmith myself, and we often trip over things, and we often have wee faux pas. But I suppose it's one of the ones. It's It's really pernickety. I mean, and other than just it's unacceptable to get a guy's name wrong, I'm kind of struggling here to really say much more than that, to be honest with you. I mean, my wife, for example, she hates when people use the wrong words or use things in the wrong context or whatever. So that probably would annoy her, to be honest, as well. But I don't think I'm sorry, mate. It can't. It's just people do this all the time. What about people? So then, what I would say is, and I know because his name is so basic, it shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard to get that one right. But what about players, foreign players that have amazing names, big long tongue twisters, right? Oh, well, let's look at Balakwisha. How many times have we heard different pronunciations of that, for example? And that's the thing. So
yeah, Balakwisha.
yes, aye. So the thing is it's people will get names wrong, and sometimes it might be ignorance, sometimes it might just not even known, but sometimes it's just because it's damn hard to say. So to that end, I think that's just I think that really is it's like much like my wife would be. It's a you thing. You get annoyed at people dropping the ball or something like that.
Well, one thing I do like, I almost hope it's going to be a running gag, is if you notice Celtic keep misspelling new players' names wrong on their jerseys the first time.
Iheanacho wrong, didn't they?
Iheanacho wrong. I don't mind that. I'm not asking for that. Go Room 101. I'm specifically asking for people on Axom's chat room specifically who say, Luke McGowan's been playing well. He's not called Luke McGowan, even though I made the mistake. So I have nothing to stand on here.
Do you think though, if it's on chats and on live stream comments and stuff, sometimes that's the old autocorrect coming in where McGowan is perhaps more recognised for the old chatter. Like I'd use my phone and it predicts text and it would probably go to McGowan over McCown just because that's maybe a wee bit more of a, is that me giving you a reason as to
absolutely. Like when people will say Luke McGowan is a ducking dunt, I would say it's that sort of autocorrect. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand the type version in the Axon live chat. Anybody that does that, you're now forgiven. Do you know what, Steve-O? I've changed my mind. This is not going what I want. It doesn't deserve it.
Mate, there we go. You have this might be the first time ever we've had an actual climb down. So you've done it yourself, but it's access denied. But we can't. If you're coming round and you're even seeing it and going, do you know what? Now I think about it, that's a little bit crazy and irrational. Then it can't simply go on. But this one that you've got, item number 3, whisper it, by the way, because this could be unpopular amongst people. However, I've said this a million times, and it is, of course, this. It's the Celtic Barcelona Love Fest. Now, what I want to ask you here is, with regards to it, you can elaborate as much as you want. Is this a general, as we like to say, birthday care pish thing where the players come out and go, the best atmosphere ever, all that kind of stuff? Or is it simply the romance of that result, which when we really look back on it, was fucking embarrassing? The result was brilliant, but by God, the game was brutal.
It's a bit of both, Steve-O. So I'll admit in advance, this one is slightly... Sorry. Oh, I've brought up my whole thing. I've stuffed my whole thing. This one is slightly outdated. So I don't know if this was as big a thing in Glasgow as it was here in Belfast. There was a period where every Celtic fan from here was also a Barca fan. I remember when Barca went through their real glory phase of like 06 to 15, that 10-year phase, right? I remember if you ever had Facebook, there were these people that all of a sudden was like their teams. But when you were a kid in Belfast, your teams were Celtic. I was Celtic only because of my Celtic and Insane supporter dad, as I've mentioned. But most people were Celtic and Liverpool, Celtic and Man United, Celtic and Chelsea, blah, blah. All of a sudden, in the 2010 period, it became Celtic and Barcelona, which even as a teenager, I thought that's fucking insane. You cannot just pick Barcelona because they're by far the best team in the world. But there was this really pathetic thing. I almost feel bad calling it pathetic. But
to jump in, is there any of the Larson effect on this one?
If there's anybody with the Larson effect, I understand it because Henrik went there, of course. But I don't think it's that. I think it's bandwagon jumpers who jumped on the Barca bandwagon. And I don't blame you for being your favorite team to watch. But if you're from Glasgow, Edinburgh, whatever parts of Scotland, I got one of my videos, I pronounced it Edinburgh, and the comments just slaughter me. Anyway, if you're from anywhere in Scotland or anywhere in Ireland, and you say you're a Celtic and Barcelona fan. There's a teenage Paul there who is still going to be triggered by that, because I just remember people saying that and thinking, shut up, just shut up. I just remember being infuriated. And I've never seen Celtic fans suck up to another club ever. Under Martin O'Neill, the glory days, we were all over everyone. Celtic Park was a fortress. We were on top of them all. And then when these boys, I just realized it's back to front on the camera, so it's all made up. But when these boys did this, all the Celtic hearts melted. That's Xavi and Iniesta and Messi when they held up those wee jerseys. And I think it was made particularly bad because they were deliberately retro jerseys. Like, you have the Celtic cross. It was the remake of the 1800 jersey. So people, their hearts melted when they saw the best boys in football. But I have a point to make about the best boys in football. You can't say it, but I'll just tell you, right? We have here, in 2008, was it, when Rangers held Barca to a 0-0 draw at Ibrox, and we all remember under Walter Smith, Messi called Rangers anti-football.
Yes,
and I remember on social media at the time, Celtic fans went gleeful with it. Ha, you're anti-football, which they were. God bless Walter Smith, but they were anti-football.
It was. Sometimes people all describe it as absolute terrorist football. It's terrible. I mean, it's absolutely battered down the hatches. It is an assault on your eyeballs. And we often say it. Walter Smith was ahead of his time because anti-football. Davy Martindale watched that game and went nice and just copied it.
Absolutely. But I have a heartbreaker for you here, Steve-O, because I know you can't say because it's back to front, so I don't know why I'm still like a weatherman pointing this.
Is that Wanyama there? Or is it?
That is not Wanyama. That man is Frank Rijkaard. And do you remember, Steve-O?
Celtic players, because Wanyama was a key player in that
match.
Sorry,
yeah. Well, it's a double point. So the first point to make, before Messi called Rangers anti-football, remember in 2004 in the UEFA Cup, we beat them 1-0 at Celtic Park, Alan Thompson, and then 0-0 at the Nou Camp, David Marshall's glorious moment.
Yes.
Frank Rijkaard didn't take that defeat well. He came out and he called Celtic ugly anti-football years before Messi called Rangers ugly anti-football. And then this slipped past the headlines after we beat them 2-1 at Celtic Park. Was it Xavi? Yes, it was Xavi said they deployed anti-football tactics. And Steve, would you ever get in American Congress when they're trying to pass a bill? When they're in American Congress, when they're trying to pass a bill and they tack something onto the bill, I want to tack this into this Room 101 nomination. It is, I'll send it to you to put it up in the right order because back to front. Do you ever get those stat facts about the night Celtic beat Barca and it says we had 10% possession, 11% possession, we had 100 passes versus 900 passes? That stat page is fake. I've looked it up and see we had 26% possession. Not that that's amazing, but I want to tack that on to the Barca Celtic loving of Barca. They pass the ball every 2 seconds. They're amazing, and I support Celtic and Barca because I understand the political allegiance of supporting Catalonia independence, which I of course also do. But another one from Paul, could never let it go when other Celtic fans who he was friends with all of a sudden became Celtic and Barcelona fans. This is outdated. Yeah. It's nobody really does this anymore, but I need to put it in.
So you've got me here. I'll be honest. This one was always compelling because I've come on and I can see, and it's funny you say that, right? So that peak Barcelona, undoubtedly, you could definitely say that they're in the equation, if not the definitive, one of the finest or the finest European side that we've seen for God knows how long. They're definitely in the conversation, if not up the top there. Let us know what you think of that golden era Barcelona. Is that the greatest ever European side that we've seen in recent times? Let us know. But yes, for me, I totally get what you're saying. Now, I understand that, as you said, that you'll have Celtic as your team, particularly, as you say, it seems common. I know a couple of guys from Southern Ireland, Northern Ireland, and they've both got a team. Celtic's their team, but then they'll have usually an English Premier League team, and it's usually Liverpool or Man United, as you said. I can understand that you might watch, if you're a football fan and you like watching, like I used to love watching Football Italia, Channel 4, for example. My old gran, God rest her soul, she used to sit every Sunday and watch Italian football, and she could tell me everything about those teams, and I used to sit there and watch it, so I kind of get a real soft spot for watching, Ravanelli and the likes cutting about. And
love that, David, love that.
So I understand you having an interest or an enjoyment, but I wouldn't profess that they were my team. And it's funny you said that, because my old man, see that team we were just talking about there, hook, line and sinker. My dad went through this period. He still does watch the Spanish football, but it was like, oh, I'm watching Barcelona tonight, son. I'm watching, like, he just, like, literally, he's an old guy, and he was fanboying. He was literally fanboying. Oh, this football's amazing, son. You watch this. Love watching Barcelona. Messi, what a player he is. Like, waxing lyrical. So I get it. I really, really get it, and it annoys me. But I'm going to go early on this, and I'm going to say, I'm not going to bring up a sign, but I'm going to talk a wee bit. It's getting in. And do you know why it's getting in for me?
Thank fuck.
It's getting in for me simply because less to do with the people supporting them, but the Barca loving the whole thing, that result. Now, don't get me wrong, as I've just said, you were playing against one of the finest teams that we've seen, undoubtedly, right? But think of when it was. And we're still getting people talking about it as one of the greatest nights in Celtic's history. I mean, come on, you beat a good team, right? Like, give it a rest. No trophies were handed out that day. It's like we slag teams off, and we slagged off a lot of Rangers teams when they'd say, "Oh, we played such and such." You know what else it falls into? It's like we gave Bayern Munich a run over 2 games cup. In the bin with that, right? It's good. Celebrate it.
Do you forget when Rangers fans claim we got to the Champions League semi-final in '93? I was like, who did you play in the semi-final? You got nonsense.
Yeah. And it's up there with, like, when you get beat off a team and you say, "Oh, we were competing for 60 minutes, but then we get beat." Like, I get it, right? So the whole Barcelona, for me, the one that's saying it's going in is I hate the romanticism that's still around that 2-1 result. I hate it. Right? It was a phenomenal result. I celebrated like it was going out of fashion. Yes.
I just want to point out, I know all of our viewers know this, Devo. It wasn't the only time we beat Barca. Martin O'Neill with Henrik up front beat them as well.
Exactly. And I think, though, it was simply because, as I said, the level of that Barcelona team was night and day. It was something to do. But the fact that people...
I agree. But the 04 Barca team were nearly as good. I think people don't appreciate how good Martin O'Neill's win over 2 legs against them was, because we all now look at the 2012, we all worship Barca team, which I'm pointing out here. But Martin O'Neill beat the team that had Saviola, Ronaldinho. Yep. Such a good team.
Mm-hmm. And so it's going in because of that. For me, just solely on that, I hate it. And it's, again, it's a singular result. Mate, it had a banner on the wraparound of the stadium celebrating that. Like, you know, you had trebles and trophy lifts, and then you had Celtic 2, Barcelona 1. I mean, come on, seriously.
I also want to point out of this is a bitter, because I'd already developed a bitterness of Barca at this time. Do you remember it was in the Champions League group phase when we beat them 2-1? We had to play them at the new camp first. Samaras put us one up. I can't remember who the goal is, but in the 94th minute, Jordi Alba scored their winner. And Jordi Alba, from a long ball into the box, which they would accuse everybody else of being terrorist ball. Long ball into the box is how they beat us. I remember when that goal went in. Never mind Rangers, never mind anything else. That was the angriest I think I've ever been at Celtic. When they scored that goal, I turned to my dad and I said, I fucking hate Barcelona.
Well, it's get in. Don't you worry, it's get in. But I'll say one last thing on it. Brilliant team, brilliant play, beautiful on the eye, phenomenal. However, for me personally, how good that team were. Now, people say if something's good, use that as the DNA, the building blocks to play your own football. However, I think that Barcelona team, for a long period, ruined football. Them and
boring to watch.
Ruined football.
So boring to watch. Death by a Thousand Hankies, wasn't it called? So boring.
Every team was trying to do passing.
Trying to emulate the same pass. So boring.
And it, for me, absolutely killed football, and managers with players that couldn't do it, trying to do it, and it just ruined football.
You can almost say the after effects to Brendan's horseshoe to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you need to stay that. And I often say that. I say that team, and then as we've seen with Guardiola and other teams, I say, for me personally, ruined football. So I always look at whenever Germany destroyed the Spanish team, I thought,
Steve, you will not believe what you've just said,
I
because
thought that was the death for me. I was
yeah.
never so happy to see that style of football get laid to the sword by direct, purposeful football. So that's why he's getting in.
Thank God. And I've talked about my dad being my major influence as a Celtic fan. I'm so happy it's in. My dad despised that Spanish style style of football. And when Germany won the World Cup, when they beat Brazil 7-1 in Brazil, that is the most I've seen my dad celebrate a non-Celtic win that wasn't Hibs beating them 3-2 in the Scottish Cup final.
Yeah, it's going in. So congratulations. I say, for me, it's a combination of things. But yes, the Barcelona loving, they're a great team. They're still a great team to watch. But come on, man, give me a rest. So you have one more, and I don't know. Again, I'll be honest with you. You need to work this one on me here, right? Because this does seem ultra petty now. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
This one's pathetic. This one's ultra petty. It's not only ultra petty. It's pathetic, and it's a waste of time. It's Celtic fans weren't blue, and this is based off of one game ever. I wish I have searched on YouTube for it. This is obscure. It's the first leg. So we beat Barcelona in the last 16 of the EF. This is pathetic. We beat Barcelona 1-0, or we beat them 1-0 in aggregate in the first leg in 2004, and then we put them out by drawing 0. In the quarterfinals, we played Villarreal. It was 1-1 at Celtic Park, and we lost 2-0 in Spain. Right? If you remember, we went 1-0 down at home to Villarreal, and we were pressing for an equalizer for ages, and we finally got the equalizer. I'm going to guess it was Henrik. I can't remember off the top of my head. The camera caught the people in the crowd, and there was just a guy in an all blue tracksuit with all the green and white hoops around him. I was cheered. I'm sure he's a fan. So what I've got here was the day we played Linfield in a Champions League qualifier, and we beat them 2-0 in Belfast. This is the fan zone. There you can see there. That's the fan zone. Now that is a poor girl pulling a blue hoodie over her head because it was lashing rain. I was there that day, and it was the only photo I could find. But all too often, I see Celtic fans wearing blue hoodies. And I know you'll say Rangers have this thing about no green boots, no green trainers. I understand how pathetic and petty it is. I'm being that petty. I am being that petty about this. Blue shirts, blue hoodies, blue jeans. I can understand. I'm not asking everybody to go emo and wear black skinny jeans at the matches, but blue jeans I'll accept. But blue hoodies at Celtic Park. Come on.
Is there a shade though? Is there a shade though? This is what it's like. I'll be honest. Now, sometimes if I'm going to the Celtic match, right, you're maybe going to a boozer before it. You might be meeting up with some friends in town, or maybe after it you're going out, right? So you kind of, you go for that smart casual look, right? And I've got many sort of really dark blue hoodies and stuff, kind of dark blue. I mean, we talk. This is what I'm saying, right? What are we talking here? Because to say blue, I mean, if you're sitting there in some royal blue top to bottom, then I can understand that's highly irregular. It's a bit of a bold choice for Celtic Park, but any blue,
I can accept so navy that it's basically black. I can accept that, of course, but to wear blue coat's a funny one because it rains so much in this part of the world. But just the idea of wearing, as the girl in this video is wearing a blue tracksuit, it's just odd. Put it this way, as my dad would always say, maybe he's being bitter. You would never cut to the crowd in Ibrox celebrating a goal and see somebody in an all green tracksuit jumping up and down. I know it's petty. I admit it's petty, but it's true.
Oh, I don't know, mate. Do you know, this is the thing. I know that there'll be a lot of people who'll be like, nah, unacceptable. And I don't know if you've seen, you're talking about social media creators. Have you ever saw the young guy, I don't know his name or his channel, and he turns up at Celtic Park and he'll be wearing as you say.
Yeah, stop when I was trying to find this photo.
What do you think of the gear? And it's unacceptable, son, that's terrible. And then he'll do it at Ibrox and he's top to bottom, decked out in the green, saying, "What do you think of my outfit today? Do you like it?" And they're like, "Oh, I like your gear." I don't know, maybe it's whatever it is, terrace wear, but like, "Oh, it's a topper, it's a Stone Island, but I mean, it's green, son, you can't be wearing that," So I get that kind of stuff. I don't know, this is ultra petty, because I always think that,
I admit it's so petty. This is Rangers banning green pool tables from their training room,
exactly.
petty.
So I was going to throw it at you because, as we know, we've had players that have ran out and maybe still do in the blue boots. I think Hatate went for the blue boots and stuff. So that we're showing that we are indeed a club open to all, including the colour palette of your clothing and footwear. So I mean, really, come on, are we going down that route? Because it's up there with Dugs and Caravans and the banning of green boots with Pedro. I mean, surely.
I'll admit, we should be better than this point. Even blue trainers, I'll excuse. Blue jeans, I'll excuse. Dark navy blue. I just mean blue, like wearing a blue Nike tick shirt. Like this beautiful CWO shirt you sent me, Steve-O. If it was blue, don't wear it to Celtic Park.
Well, I listen. I'll be honest with you. I've got to be honest. I've got to be a man of principles here. I can't do it. I can't because one, I will say I've not seen it enough. I haven't seen it enough. Not that would change it, but I haven't seen it enough. You might get, as I say, one or two sort of incidents where it will happen, right? But as I say, is a guy who will wear shades of blue at times to Celtic Park. Nothing that, as I say, would describe as being that is a Rangers blue, it's a Royal blue or anything like that. But again, where does it stop? Where's the shades? Where's the lines? And that's the thing. We also have players running about in blue boots. And as I say, it's just for the pettiness. I think that we as Celtic fans should be better than that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm not doing it. And listen, it's personal peeves and this and that. But unfortunately,
I'm glad it's not you. I'm glad you beat me in that one, Steve.
It's denied. I can't do it. We can't be that. As we always go and say, we're not trying to be better than anybody, but it's lowest common denominator. We can't be saying to people, come on, you can't, you're not allowed in here, you're wearing a blue hoodie. Come on.
Unless you, Steve, you let me stand at the gate, and if anybody wears blue jeans, they're getting changed into something else. If we're going to go that, I'll do that. I'll be unpopular and do that.
So you're going to be one of the bouncers that you get in nightclubs with the bar? No, it's a collar. It's a collar the night, boys. You'll get
talking to a 70-year-old man who's been a season ticker for 50 years, Celtic Park. Get those jeans off, son.
So if somebody turned up in a sort of bright blue pair of Nikes or something, you'd do like some. I've seen mates do this before. Again, come back to the nightclub analogy, where I've been out with mates and they've no had shoes on, they've had trainers, and the guy got his shoes. My mates went in the corner, took his socks off, and slapped him over the top.
Like in betweeners, whenever he has to change his trainers to get into the club. Yeah, if you're wearing navy trainers, son, just get changed into a pair of fucking green. I can't think of a green brand. Fila's blue. What's a green brand? It's a tough one. Do you want Steve-O? It's another concede from me.
Do you know what, mate? I will say it. It's 2 out of 4. That's not bad. That's been the average.
As Meatloaf would say, 2 out of 4 ain't bad.
It's not bad, and mate. And again, you've got a higher win rate, a higher percentage than the last Rangers manager. So you take that. You've beat Russell Martin.
I absolutely adore Russell Martin. I think we should bring him in as our next manager, quite frankly. Vegan, cool hair, cool guy. Hates Rangers fans.
So I'm going to throw this out here. Now, I don't know if this is true, and I don't know if it's folk at the wind up, but I've heard quite a few folks saying that Russell Martin was a Celtic fan, or at least was being the key word in the growing up period. I don't know.
I know his grandparents are Scottish, and because that's why he ended up playing for Rangers unknown briefly. I don't know if that's true, if he's a Celtic fan or not. But I will say this: if we ever gave him a job at the club, not obviously the Christ, not manager, but if we give him a job as like head of emails, I'd be happy.
Head of having nicely trimmed beards and conditioned hair. You know, think about it.
Better than mine. I look like fucking Paddy McCourt ripoff, so he looked better than me.
You could have Russell Martin, and then you could have his assistant. You could have Stuart Armstrong. Great hair.
Very good. Very good.
There
Who else can you put in there? Do you know who I'd always put in there? I always think, obviously there's Jota as well, but you know who had great hair? Christ, what was his name? The striker who played up front, Gary Hooper. Why did it take me so long to think Gary Hooper? For like a clean cut hair, he had great hair.
Wait, this is taking an odd turn, don't we?
Yeah, we're doing best hairstyles.
Yeah. Neil Lennon's bleach blonde mop. Remember that?
I love that as well. I love that. Where Evander Snow's dreads, bad player, good hair.
So can I just before we finish up, I just want to talk about a few things that have come round because we mentioned Neil Lennon there. Neil Lennon's been doing a lot of strange commentary as of late, hasn't he? And it's been very pro-board in a anti-board era. Now, I must admit, I'm a big Neil Lennon fan. Neil Lennon, I had the long sleeve hoops growing up with Lennon 18 on the back. Right, loved Lenny. Loved that fire and desire that he brought in the managerial. Broke my heart, as everybody's at COVID. I thought he should have bowed out and left. But recently, he's really hurt me. Lenny's hurt me. He's upset me. He's let me down because I understand. Is it fluffing the nest, mate? But I mean, come on, can we take Lennon seriously these days when he's coming out and backing the board and backing Desmond?
Unfortunately, I think the answer, Steve, is no. Now, I like yourself. Neil Lennon was kind of my ultimate Celtic hero, so I loved him as a player. And then when he came back as manager, he literally got my pulse raised. Remember when he stood on the pitch after the last game of the season, goes, "Bring the Thunder back." He did the speech. I couldn't have been more behind it. I worked in a department store at the time with a Rangers fan and a Celtic fan. And I remember the day we beat Rangers 2-0 when Samara scored that double, I just remember giving it to that Rangers fan. But we ended up losing the title that season because later on we lost 3-2 to Inverness. But I love Lennon and I backed him up. I remember when he left, I thought he would get a decent job at England. I was really shocked to see he got Bolton. And ever since, even when he came back, he did great when he came back in that European campaign in the Europa League. But these days, Lenny's transparent, sucking up to the board. It's a wee bit pathetic, Lenny, at this point. And I almost feel bad describing Lennon as pathetic, but it's so transparent how much he's sucking up to Lawwell and Desmond. Mr. Desmond, Mr. Lawwell, I'll do anything you say, please. It's pathetic.
I mean, does it worry you? Because as we know, we've got a manager who I think that is, after, obviously we're recording after the Dundee result, there's a lot of people, we know that the problem's the board, but the questions are getting asked, the manager's desire and his adaptability and all this kind of stuff, right? And the biggest worry that we've got as fans is I think the writing looks fairly set on the wall that Brendan Rodgers will definitely leave at the end of the season. Dare I say it, depending on how things maybe pan out. I certainly hope it doesn't go that way, but you don't know. But it's the question of who is going to come back or is going to come in the door. Maybe it would be a return, maybe it wouldn't, but it just strikes you a guy that's just fluffing the nest just in case they need to an emergency break glass and there's Lenny behind it.
It is terrifying to think that with the current board in place, it's not impossible that they would give Lenny a third run, because I've always thought since COVID, they have compartmentalized that and they're going, Lenny lost it because of COVID. It wasn't because of him. Even though since then he's gone to fucking Cyprus and Dunfermline. The Dunfermline aren't even doing great. I always think I don't know Peter Lawwell, quite frankly. There's a spoiler. I don't know Peter Lawwell, but there's a bit of me that thinks they think he's Alex Ferguson. They think he's class, and they would give him a third go to prove the doubters wrong.
I mean, it was funny because he came out and he was doing all sorts of talking, and he was saying, just to confirm, I didn't get actually offered the job in the showers. And I think he's like, when you come out the showers and there's a wee room here, you're like, mate, I don't care. Nobody else fucking cares.
As if he's like lubing himself up, and Law was actually going in and offering him a job.
I'll rub your back. So
all right, Lenny. There's my Scottish accent for you. But my Lawwell accent is deep one. I can't. I was going to try to do it there. I'll go back and not in case I alienate.
You missed a spot there in your back. Whilst we're at it, you fancy the manager's job full time? I mean, come on, does anybody really believe it happened that way? You don't need to tell us that. It's a joke. Get on board with it. It's fine. But another one as well was, again, just talking about ex-managers, was obviously Ange Postecoglou getting sacked after a handful of games. Strange, isn't it? Is it maybe just a sort of a proof, another one that sometimes when you leave, the grass isn't always greener. Now, of course, you'll never take away the fact that he won the Europa League, and well done to him, and he's been successful in that regard. But we see so many people that move on and it doesn't quite happen. And then there's another guy that's out of a job as well. Ronnie Dyle has recently been sacked as well. It would just be...
I have to admit, I do have a massive soft spot for Ange, only because, as I was explaining earlier, those Martin O'Neill days are precious to me. I don't remember the Tommy Burns days when people tell us we played such good football. In my lifetime, the best football I've seen Celtic play was under Ange. I loved it. It was attacking all the time. It was so good. My dad disagrees with this. He's like, in the last months of Ange, it wasn't good football. I'm going to sweep that under the rug. I loved Ange ball, and I know in Europe it left us exposed.
Yeah.
I know always bringing a manager back. We've brought back Lenny, we brought back Rodgers, and we're just going to bring back Ange. I get the people that are against it completely. I wouldn't be heartbroken if we did bring back Ange.
So just on that, to finish up, just a thought from Paul rather than another thought from Paul, shall we say. What's the sweet spot for Celtic? Because I agree that I liked a lot of Lennon football at the time. But Lennon is combustible. I think he comes in, he gets you buy in for a season and a half, then it's diminishing returns where his style doesn't work. I also said before on record that I thought that Brendan Rodgers was basically Neil Lennon with a better smile, a better suit, and a better CV, because he comes in, he invests in everybody, he gets them all on board. He's a wee bit sort of Walter Mitty, and then that sort of arm round you
story. A wee bit Walter Smithy.
Aye, it kind of diminishing returns again. And then you get Ange, who comes in, and again, a wee bit Walter Mitty, the stories, I used to watch Celtic, my darling, did you? But still, and then diminishing returns. What's the sweet spot for a Celtic manager? Because we want that attacking football, but we want to have adaptability. And all these guys that we've just spoke about have all their Achilles heel. Ange refused to be pragmatic, refused to set up for the game and, dare I say it, defend. Brendan Rodgers is talking about having a Honda Civic and wanting to drive it like a Ferrari, when the reality is he's a manager that's, for a car analogy, he's got 7 gears, but he's only happily used the same 3 all the time because he doesn't want to change it up. And then you've got Lenny, who's, I say, diminishing returns because he showed adaptability. For example, the season we came back, we went 3-5-2, but ultimately he never changes his spots. Celtic surely need somebody that can hit that sweet spot. Does that exist for you? Who would that be?
So, Steve-O, you're a fellow wrestling fan, and you don't know if nostalgia is crowding your view, but the Attitude Era for me is also the ultimate. For me, it's still that Martin O'Neill era, that direct attacking domestic plus able to get results in Europe. And I'm sure nostalgia is playing a massive part in that. But I would say 2001 to 2004 Celtic is still my Celtic is still Douglas, Baldy, Valharn, Mayalby, Agath, Thompson, Lennon, Petrov, Lambert, Larson, Sutton. That's still Celtic to me. That is the sweet spot. That those glory years under O'Neill is essentially, as a fan, what I'm still chasing. I don't know how realistic it is in the financial restraints of football these days, but to me, it still is that O'Neill glory era.
And is there a manager, let's just say, shot out a cannon, the season's over, Celtic are looking for a new manager. Of course, the caveat always be is whoever you get brought in, will they be given suitable resources from this board? Will this leopard change their spots and show some ambition? But who would be an ideal sort of candidate? I think the big worry I see a lot of people see is you've got a guy like Sean Maloney, he's in the door. He's overqualified for the job he's in. But then a lot of people are saying, you look at Martinez, and come the end of the World Cup, he's going to be out a job, or he's going to leave a job, right? Now, depending on how Portugal's time goes, the quality of job that he get could be a sliding scale. But would you welcome somebody like a Martinez with a combination of Maloney, or does that give you the fear?
I actually would welcome him, although there's this English-born Scotland national team manager I really want to give for Celtic. He has experience in Scotland and he's won the championship. His name is Russell Martin. I would love him to be. Roberto Martinez I would absolutely take, because I believe his wife's like Glaswegian, so he lives in Glasgow.
Yeah, somebody used to play up here, aye.
Wouldn't be opposed to it in the slightest.
Well, it remains to be seen. The last question for you before we finish up. It's testing times. We find ourselves in, as we spoke earlier on, in a would-be title challenge, and it looks as if Hearts might just have the minerals to be a wee bit more sustained than Aberdeen. Are you confident in this current situation? Obviously, the backdrop is just with the fan protests and stuff. I don't think that that's going to be a distraction. I think that it's got to be shouldered by the coaching staff, the manager and the players. Every game at this moment seems like it's a mountain to climb. Sturm Graz on Thursday, Hearts will look further. We've got a semi-final. Who knows going to be in the dugout for Rangers, but we've been struggling there as well. So what are we going to get?
But I would say that at the minute, the unholy trinity of Celtic, as we all know, ultimately it's the board's fault. Then I do place a lot of blame on Rodgers at the minute, and then also the players. I'd excuse the fans. The fans are right. But I know what you mean. Long term, what we're going to get is very hard to predict. In all honesty, so we're recording this, Steve-O, 19th of October, 2025. In all honesty, if you're asking me to predict, I'm not predicting good things for Celtic this season. Hold this against me, bookmark it if it doesn't happen. I do think Hearts are serious, and I think unless we have some miraculous January window, which I don't see happening, I think this is the time for somebody that isn't Celtic, original Rangers or new Rangers, to win it. If Hearts don't win it this year, they never will.
Yeah, and again, just one final thought. I keep pushing for more and more thoughts the more you speak, but Yeah, I've seen the term getting bandied about, and maybe it's reactionary, and maybe it might be early to go on that one. But people are saying it seems a wee bit COVID-y. And again, the reason I bring this round is because your channel was born out of COVID. So if anybody's got an opinion or a knowledge about what it feels like to be COVID-y season, it would be yourself. Do you think that's a fair thing to be thrown out there?
Absolutely, Steve. I remember during the COVID season, we lost 2-0 at home, and I was like, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming, weird enough. Was it about 2 weeks later, we drew 3 each with Aberdeen. Lewis Ferguson scored a 94th minute penalty to make it 3 each. And I remember look it up, whatever date, it might have been a month later, whatever date that was the moment I realized, holy goodness, we're not winning 10 in a row. It's over. That penalty, whatever it was, it knocked 2 points off us. And I looked at it and saw how consistent Slippy G's Rangers were. And I thought, oh my God, we're really not going to actually do this. That it was that point, and we're very close to that point with Celtic this season. I'm not there yet, but as we're recording this, we're 6 days away or 7 days away from playing Hearts at Tynecastle. If we don't beat them, if they don't win, if Hearts beat us next week, it's over.
I mean, because this is the thing, and again, that's a good point you make there, and I don't want to be negative, but I'm just trying to think. We turn around and say, we look at the gap between ourselves and Rangers, right? Now, people, whether they're down there or up there, people always look at them as being your tangible biggest rivals, right? It's fact that your biggest contenders, because everybody falls away and they claw their way back up, right? But we look at the gap, X points, 7 points, 8 points, 9 points, and go, game's over, it's done, it's in the bin. Nobody's coming back for that. We're going to storm this, right? And I get that we're a bigger club and bigger resources, but it would be ignorant, would it not, as you say, God forbid Hearts did win and go 8 points ahead. You're going 8 points. You know, if it was eight, we won that game and we were 8 points ahead of Hearts, we'd be going, league's over, hand it over right now.
Listen to the steadiness of the voice of those people. So after 2 weeks, they're like, Hearts won't sustain a title challenge. After 6 weeks, Hearts won't stay. After 14 weeks, Hearts won't sustain. They're getting less and less confident. We're at the point where Hearts have to be taken serious almost immediately. And if they do manage to avoid defeat next week, I wouldn't say they're favourites. I think they're basically favourites if we don't beat them next week.
So the last thing I'll ask you then, because it's early, 2 fixtures coming up. Sturm Graz at home. Are they any better than the teams we've played before? I don't believe so. And Hearts, what do the 2 games look like to you? If I was to push you for results, you can give me a scoreline if you want, but just results. What does it look like in your head? Heart or head? What's it going to be?
I really don't want to be negative at all, but I have a terrible negative feeling about both of them. I'm thinking Sturm Graz. I'm going to Sturm Graz because of how dull we've played this season. We didn't score against Kairat Almaty over 2 legs. We didn't score against Russell Martin's Rangers, who everybody else scored against. I'm going to go 0-0 at home to start. We're at home to Sturm Graz, yeah?
Yeah, aye.
I'm going to go 0-0 at home to Sturm Graz, and I'm going to go. I'll be controversial. I go 1-0 Hearts.
Oh God,
I don't want to do it, obviously, but
I rather honesty. And hopefully we're wrong, and hopefully you can, after the results, Celtic go out and hopefully they'll smash both of them. You can do a funny.
People can tweet hate at me. Haha, you said we would lose, we wouldn't win either. Hopefully we win both 5-0.
Where you can do a wee funny bit on your screen and go, here's me making an arse of it on Celtic World Order. So yeah, exactly. There's either way, mate, it could be win-win for you, because you're either going to be right and going to be upset, or you're going to be wrong and you're going to be able to laugh at yourself. And that's what it's all about. So anyway, listen, thank you very much for taking the time to join me and have a wee chat. It's been a pleasure. As I say, if you haven't checked out another one from Paul, Channel 67, go and check him out. Good content, particularly with Channel 67 stuff. If you want a wee bit of fun, you want a wee bit of lightheartedness, you want to have a laugh at a time when it's kind of, there's not much to laugh about or be overly joyous about when being a Celtic supporter. It's not drastic, it's not game over, but we've got to be honest, it's not exactly an enjoyable ride. That's your man. He is. I believe it was Cobra that said that crime was a disease and he was the cure. Well, mundane football is a disease and Channel 67 is the cure. Get yourself over there and check that out. So, mate, thank you very much for joining me. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing some quality content for you as well. Let us know what you think below. What did you think of Paul's submissions? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with it? And of course, until the next time, take care of yourselves. And as always, hail, hail. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.